button. Yeah, thank you so much, Farson and Alex join us, and they are going to give us like a pretty good, like innovative ways to how to help the manufacturer by using XR. So yeah, let's welcome Farson and Alex.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex. Thanks everyone for being here. So we're going to be talking to Alex Goldberg here today. Alex has got a really rich background here, and we're going to possibly just work through that as the conversation unfolds. But it's a real pleasure to be here discussing the future of spatial computing, heavy manufacturing, and also really what XR might mean in that space today, especially at that scale of enterprise that is that specialized. We're talking ultra niche engineering. So correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, there's possibly not that many people doing this right now. And so perhaps that's why we're here, is to let the world know that this is actually a big growth area, scaling massively, and that the potential is infinite. You've got quite a lot of background here I'd love to work through, but let's just say hello to you first.
Hey everyone, thank you so much, Dom, for hosting these. I love these industry get-togethers that you facilitate and then share online for everyone to watch. It's amazing work that you do, and I'm a huge fan of XReality Academy, as you know. I want to say to everybody that's watching this, Dom is super passionate, and she's the kind of person that I love supporting, and she's down for the cause, and she really understands technology as well. She's not just like a bandwagon jumper on her, and I think you all know that type of person. She's the real deal, and thank you so much, Dom.
Thank you for all the kind words. Yeah.
So Alex, how does someone who moved to California from New York, who was a pro or semi-pro skateboarder, ending up in the game testing industry for Sega and Sony back in the 90s, then making a pivot over to film school where you were making shorts and documentaries, end up deep in the world of advanced XR. I know there's some steps in between. You did XR for REI, right?
Well, I love that you brought up skateboarding and the whole, that's a throwback. You know, when I was a kid, I was a big time gamer. I grew up with the Atari and the ColecoVision, and I come from that era, the golden age of gaming, have you. And when I was like 13, I had it all planned out. I grew up in New Jersey, actually right next to New York City. Arguably better pizza, depends who you ask. And when I was like 13, I planned moving to California through skateboarding and then getting a job in the game industry and starting out in like what was considered the mailroom, which is a game tester. So I got a job as a $9 an hour game tester. And that was hard to pull off as well. You had to have like game testing experience to be a game tester. So believe it or not, I worked in virtual reality in a retail environment at a place called Cybermine, where you would come in and pay $5 for a game to play a game. And this was in San Francisco's Embarcadero Center with virtuality headsets that ran on Amigas. If anybody remembers that going way back, Farzan's nodding his head. You might remember the really bad movie with Johnny Depp called Johnny Mnemonic, which I think was based off of, was that Stephen Gibson wrote that?
William Gibson, yeah.
William Gibson, right, thank you. Anyway, they used those headsets in that movie as a prop, but I worked on the games that actually used that equipment, and a guy would come in as a technician, show up and repair the machines. And I was like, hey man, can you just say that I was a game tester here so I could get in that catch-22 loop to have game testing experience? So I was able to leverage that. I worked on the Sega Saturn, that 32-bit game console from Sega. And then I went to Sony, worked on the PlayStation, worked on Tomb Raider 2, Tekken, a bunch of the first Gran Turismo, a bunch of very important titles in the third-party licensing department. Anyway, I feel like I could talk about that forever. I went back to Sega and launched a Dreamcast. I was also just into storytelling and filmmaking. As a kid and as a skateboarder, we would make videos, and that's how I got sponsored, and we'd all make videos of each other. So I was into filming and storytelling. So I went to the City College and then transferred to the San Francisco Art Institute, and I made shorts and documentaries, and I had a piece that I sold to Fox, and I had stuff in film festivals, but I was struggling to make ends meet. And living in San Francisco in around 2004, it was expensive. Now it's just like, no, I don't know how kids could pull that off now there, or
I totally agree. San
Right.
Francisco, it's the place where all the talents live here, and it's just so expensive. Even though if you can get into the big company, you will get paid well. But right now, you see all the layoffs. So I don't know how people can survive here. That's my question.
Yeah,
as
there's
well.
a backlash coming. And when I moved there in the 90s, SF had this real bohemian artsy feel to it. I live in the Lower Haight, and there was this awesome vibe. And being a skateboarder, my whole skate scene and the music and art scene was just awesome. I have so many amazing memories of it. Anyway, back to my path, and I'll wrap this up first. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm going down a rabbit hole, but this is fun for me. So anyway, thank you all. Thank you for the awesome question. All right, so I had a hard time making ends meet, and I had friends from the game industry that now were working on flip phones, producing ringtone apps and what we call wallpapers, where you would pay money for a service, you get images sent to your phone. And so I worked for a company called Dwango Wireless, and we made a bunch of really cool games. In fact, I did something very innovative at Dwango. One of our licenses was Bassmaster Legendary Lunkers. And it was a fishing game, but since we're now on the web, I was able to ping the National Weather Service, and the game took place in different locales. I remember one of them was Lake Havasu. And I was able to ping the National Weather Service and get real-time weather. So when you were playing the game and you went to the Lake Havasu board, you actually had the weather conditions from the 5 or 6 that we could choose from that we were able to author for the game. It would correlate to the weather in Lake Havasu. And so I feel like I'm showing off a little bit, but whatever, this is my time to do that, I suppose. But yeah, I was getting innovative with things. Even this is like 2004. And so again, it was flip phones, pre-iOS, pre-Android, but I stuck with mobile for a while. I went and worked for a bunch of startups. I worked for a company called Air Media. We got acquired by AOL. Then I worked for this company called Max Wireless. We did a bunch of defense contract work for the military, and also consumer apps like the NBC Winter Olympics, NCAA Final Four. These were iOS and Android apps. We had an API, it was called Huddle. It was a group messaging platform, sort of like Beluga or GroupMe, which were all acquired, but we tried to white label the technology. I'm not sure if that was the best route in retrospect, but I didn't have control over those decisions. Had an opportunity I was back to moving to SF in the mid 90s and how amazing it was. San Francisco really changed throughout the years. And I had an opportunity in 2013 to leave and come to Seattle. And at that point, I was really ready to go. And so were a lot of my friends. The city really changed, and so long farewell, San Francisco. I moved to Seattle to work on Forza, the car racing game for the Xbox. I was at the studio for just 6 months, and they let a bunch of us go. Satya came on board, and they reorganized, restructured. I was a contractor, but I was guaranteed to be brought on board full time. I'm sure some of you on this call have heard that before in that spiel. And anyway, my boss at the time at Microsoft had contact at REI, the outdoor store. never in a million years would I think that I'd be working for a retailer. And I came on board REI to work on their mobile app. I fell in love with the company and the ethos and the culture. It was a very special place. I spent 8 years there. Along the way, one of my close business partners internally, the head of emerging technologies, Peter Newell, he pioneered Innovation Days, and I fell into that group, which is sort of like our hack fest. And I started building spatial computing solutions, a lot of proof of concepts, like a virtual notes thing. So an employee could show up in the morning where at the end of the day, somebody left AR notes around the store instructing you what to do. I built that with the Torch SDK. Torch was a XR startup in Portland from like maybe 2018 to 2020, something like that. So I did a lot of implementations with the Torch SDK. I built a tent visualizer, excuse me, that lets you pick different tents and look at them in real time. I started creating digital twins of our stores and distribution centers and spatially embedding content in them. A lot of my AR tents went live. These were all what we call CapEx projects, but they ended up making, they ended up being profitable. My digital twins of the retail stores, as well as my AR tents, they were just originally earmarked for the teams that I worked on and weren't expected to generate a profit. So I was building these things that were CapEx that were doing better than a lot of operationally expense projects. So I'm really proud of my work at REI. Somebody came on board, they restructured the company in around maybe mid 2021. And he said for his long-term strategy, he said something like, there's 5 things that are important to him and 3D isn't one of them. And I was like, what? It was so disappointing. It's heartbreaking, actually. And they wanted to move me over to ML, and I'm fascinated by ML, but I didn't want to do that. Spatial computing is my passion, XR technology. And I started looking for work. I was speaking with Blue Origin and Ivan, who's my manager over there. We figured out a good position for me to join the company, and I've been what we call AR for M, AR for manufacturing at a Kent. So I lead all of our augmented reality for manufacturing projects at our Kent headquarters, where we build a lot of things. I can't really go into detail I'm gonna have to keep it high level with the kind of work that I do at Blue. So half my work is what we call AR for M, as well as what we call reality capture. So in the same vein of a lot of the work that I was doing at REI, that I was pioneering with creating digital twins of facilities and then spatially embedding content in them, I kept going with that at Blue. So just did a lot. Did the wrap up, talked about what I did at Blue. Yeah.
And so I'm seeing the landscape now unfold here. I think it's fair to say, Alex, that you're in a interesting subgroup of people who have been evolving your work and role in this industry as the world of immersive technology itself has come into being. So from the mid 90s to now, I mean, I want to ask myself, when you were with Sega in the 90s, could you have even envisioned what's present now? And honestly, does it feel like it's developing too slowly? You know, I was there in my own little way. I remember downloading VRML.
Yeah,
Yeah. That virtual reality markup language.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Very early.
It's a great start.
Right.
Cool that had any traction at all in like 1997 when Vermal came out.
Yeah, I was all into it when it was out, but yeah, it just didn't survive.
Precisely. Yet, so obviously that was also a very different era of the web. So we were just bringing the internet into existence. What now look back on called Web 1, and then the advent of the mobile web, Web 2. Many people see what's imminent now, whatever transition point we're at is perhaps bringing on the spatial web, spatial computing. Is that in and of itself Web3? Big question marks there. But I'm curious, you having had this whole arc across Web 1 to 2 to wherever we're at now. I like to say we're in Web 2 right now, right? This is 2.5 to me. What is it to you, Alex? What's your...
Well, first I want to say I understand your struggle in coming up with a name for where we're at now, because it's convenient to communicate with people and describe it as a this, but I also know you and I understand a hesitancy to do that, but it's out of convenience to communicate, to say we're at this place and it's called this right now. I don't know what to call it. Web3-ish, you know what I like? I think they call it the fourth wave of computing, where there was desktop, then it went to mobile. I'm losing track because then we would be here now, that would be 3. There's a fourth in there. Anyway, back to the difficulty of describing where we're at. But the original part of your question was, did I envision this way back? Sort of, yes. You know, I feel like, and I said this to somebody recently, that I finally feel like technology is catching up to everything I've been fantasizing about to execute on. We're finally able to start to deliver these things. We can put a headset on that has SLAM detection, that simultaneous localization and mapping, that can create a map of the world around you. It could then correlate that and recognize where you're at and fetch from a database other things that were left there. So you're having a persistence layer that's able to be introduced. We're now seen AI come in and process info and even Gen AI and create some of those assets on the fly. These are all things that I fantasize about. I'm sorry, Rick, were you about to say something?
No, I'm just saying a program called InfiniGen, which is a procedural plugin for Blender, can do some stuff that is so, and I shared it just right before, incredibly photorealistic. It's not even AI, it's purely procedural.
Yeah, but, gotcha. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of it's a lightweight procedural dynamic content generation is something that I'm a huge fan of. In fact, at REI, I had this project, it's called Project Little Man, where you would put the headset on. I was working with Magic Leap at the time, and also on mobile AR, and you would decorate, you would dress up this little avatar with clothing, and then you would have dynamic procedurally generated terrain emerging in front of this person who was sort of walking in place, almost like they were on a treadmill. And you wouldn't see off into the distance, but you would see rocks and he'd just be walking over things that were procedurally being generated, appearing at him. I'm going off on a procedural generated rabbit hole, but yeah, Rick, I'm all about, and that's not AI. It's good to differentiate those things. But there is a Gen A, I see an overlap with Gen AI and procedural content as well. Sure. But yeah, Farsam, back to your question, I did fantasize about these things and I've been surprised a lot along the way. I think the invention of the transformer in 2017 at Google that enabled large language models, all these LLMs that are being spun up now, I didn't think that it would take off that quick, what we're seeing with OpenAI and Bard and companies like that. And I knew about OpenAI when Elon funded them. I think he was an angel investor. I forget how that worked. And they were open source and nonprofit. Now they're for profit. But I didn't think
Google is. I wonder if Google is regretting open sourcing it so early now that they're trying to catch up. Because of Microsoft and ChatGPT-4.
Yeah, I wonder too. They're crushing it in other departments of quantum computing. Google seems to be has a leg up there right now. But yeah, you know, growing up as a kid, we were inspired through literature and films. And my presentation at the AWE last year was spatial computing concepts in the movies we grew up with. I urge you guys to check that out on YouTube. Me and my buddy Lee Kebler did a really cool presentation on what inspired me and what kind of I think made us, a lot of us here on this call, and how we collectively are contributing to this thing that we're kind of racing towards. It's hard to define and categorize with a name.
So at the moment, what are you doing at Blue Origin at the abstract level that you can discuss it?
Sure.
As all of these technological strands brought you, and with AR for M, yeah, just take us where you can take us here.
Sure. So at Blue Origin, I lead what we call AR4M, augmented reality for manufacturing, and also reality capture. I lead reality capture kind of company-wide, and AR4M, I'm sort of siloed into the groups that are working at our Kent headquarters. So we have a manufacturing facility there that we're working on New Glenn, our deep space vehicle, a lot of projects for a group that was called ADP, Advanced Development Projects. It's now being spun out into a few different groups. One of them is called Lunar. I think I can say that now. One of my teammates, Adam, did the artwork for the Artemis, for the lander that we got the funding for maybe about 2 months ago now. I think we got 3.5 billion when we won that NASA contract. So I work on those projects as a, what I want to say, kind of a technical program manager, solutions architect. My role, the name of my role is Administrator XR Systems 3. So I work with teams to help improve process with AR solutions. I gather requirements, and then I work internally with my team to develop those solutions. And then I work on the implementation and iterations of those solutions with the teams that we deploy them to. So that's AR4M. Reality capture, I can't get into the technology that we use. This is outside of ITAR, International Traffic Arms Regulation, and also our export control, which is through Department of Commerce, because we have a lot of trade secrets. So separate than that, Blue has a company policy to not talk about the vendors that we use. Have to be, even though this isn't a violation of national security, I can't talk about the specific, very popular sometimes pieces of technology that we use. So I'll just say I scan spaces with a device. So I create digital twins of our shop floors and facilities, and then I embed training material. I enable our teams to collaborate by, let's say, for instance, you found an error in what we call an NC, a non-conformant part. They can funnel that up to an RE, a responsible engineer, and they can start communicating in real time in the area that was the digital twin of the facility was captured in. Also, you can leverage those digital twins and embed what we call IoT data. I'm sure you guys know about IoT, Internet of Things. So there's a few IoT platforms outside of my work at Blue. I'll just say that I love Twin Maker. It has nothing to do with the work I do at Blue. So I'm not saying that's anything, but just so you guys could have an understanding of a common large platform, AWS Twin Maker. So with technologies like that, and with leveraging sensors that you can spatially embed into a scan of a facility, we use a lot of, we have liquid natural gas, liquid nitrogen, hydrogen, helium, liquid oxygen. Those are some of the popular go-to chemicals at Blue. And for instance, if I created a digital twin of a facility as a hypothetical, we could have an IoT sensor and it could display the pressure on a valve or the viscosity of the fluid that's going through it. So you can look at this twin that was captured 6 months ago of a facility, and then in real time see the status of this area. These are things we're excited about. I will say that much without getting into details. Rick, you have a question? Go for it.
Yeah, I have a question.
Please.
I'm curious if you interface in with NVIDIA's Omniverse.
We know
I
about
would
it.
imagine-
So that's a great segue. I'm utterly familiar with Omniverse. It's a great segue into remote rendering, because I think that's a plus from those services. And it's a great segue into the security limitations that we have due to the environment that we need to operate in that is specific to export control and ITAR. So we are limited in the kinds of cloud environments that we can utilize. For Microsoft, the environment that we need to use is called GCC High, Government Community Cloud High. It's an Azure type of secure cloud, and AWS is called Gov Cloud. So unfortunately, a lot of offerings are currently off the table, I suppose is the best way to put it. But there's a lot of things in Omniverse that I do find exciting, as well as similar services to Omniverse.
Yeah, because they're all into digital twins. I mean, that's
They are.
exactly
They
what
are.
they're about.
Yeah, NVIDIA, man, what an impressive powerhouse that company has turned into. Circling back to Twin Maker and services like that, in addition to embedding sensors, like I was describing, with pressure of those fluids going through the pipes or viscosity, we also have fabrication. We build a lot of we build everything in-house for the most part. And so we'll have a machine spend a 25-day cycle building a part that's this big inside of a fabrication box by a company called Mazik and other pieces of equipment in our fab shop. And there's a little window, and you could look in at it, firing lasers, building this thing 1/10 of a millimeter at a time, and then you end up with a complex piece of machinery that somebody down the hall designed in CAD. So if you have digital twin of that machine shop, like we may or may not have, you could then go to the digital twin of it and actually see the progress of the item that's being built in that piece of fabrication equipment. So I love the ability to create digital twins and then wire up those kinds of services. In addition to sensors, and I'll wrap this whole thing up that I'm doing on digital twins because I could spend a lot of time talking about it. But in addition to sensors with real-time data, you could also build a web console that can create, that can leverage the digital twin and socialize information. Like, let's say, for instance, I scan this room right here that I'm in, and instead of having a digital twin that gives me a status on how many times a day this window opens and closes, I could create a web console that says, make this area space red right here. And then anybody who goes to look at that digital twin, when somebody flips a switch and makes a red color appear in a circle right here, as I'm trying to describe inside my living room, they would see that. So that's sort of an abstract concept. It's not getting real-time data from a sensor, but yet you're gaming the digital twin by creating your own sensor state through a web console. I don't know if I lost you guys, but right on. So I'm excited about embedding, leveraging digital twins in that respect, and disseminating information with custom web apps that invoke different states of those twins. So these are some of the things I do and some of the things we're excited about. So I focus, as I said, AR for M and reality capture, but there's another half of my team that also focuses on virtual reality. And I love VR. I play VR games with my friends, and I'm totally fascinated and super stoked on VR technology. But that's not my area of focus at Blue, but our team does virtual reality design reviews, where traditionally, when you've looked at CAD data, like from AutoCAD, for instance, 3D information on a 2D screen, we can now do immersive design reviews where the human factors element comes streaming out. So traditionally, you were just looking at stuff on that 2D screen. You didn't know if you're turning a wrench in that section, if your elbow would be up against the side of a tank wall inside of one of our space vehicles. So that's kind of the team's bread and butter. There's also a little bit of bread and butter on the AR front, which is remote assist, what we call SWIS. see what I see,
Yes.
see what I saw. It's an acronym that is for remote assist technologies, where you can in real time have a headset on and have people offsite and get be able to get unblocked from a subject matter expert that is offsite and able to look at what you're seeing. They can even draw in your mixed reality using some of the remote assist tools. So in addition to inserting 3D models and physical to virtual alignment that augmented reality has that I'm pumped on, there's very basic utilizations of AR that have a lot of traction at Blue. All right.
I mean, the question that comes to my mind that I'm sort of attempting to piece together all these strands here, Alex. And of course, if anyone else has questions, I think we're all here. You're encouraged to raise your hand and ask. But how far do you feel like digital twin technology design is going to go? Are you going to get to the point where things are highly virtualized and that big engineering decisions, building on everything you just said, are cast in this kind of super scope, right? This ability to pre-visualize, pre-analyze, as the AI comes on, as the Gen AI is running, I mean, you're going to be running performance tests and models on a level that you can't even necessarily imagine at a level of technical depth now, especially when you're co-creating with generative AI, right? If you're in almost a textual dialogue, prompt-based to derive actual use cases, applications, etc. Yeah, if that question was precise enough, Alex, if it wasn't, I can make it more precise. And I also see Jim's raising his hand, so just
Jim, hold on to that question, because I want to just answer Farsam's question while it's fresh. The most important thing that I gather from that question is, will we be using, how far do I think digital twins will get, and perhaps what's gating the usage and what is attractive to the usage? Is that a fair assessment of that? So dealing with space technology and dealing with things that are off-world, I couldn't think of a more prime place to start modeling things in preparation of going somewhere, because we can't be there, so we have to rely on a digital twin of that respective place. So it is key here at Blue to be able to model things off-world, and the better we can do that, the higher the likelihood of mission success for the myriad missions that await us, some of which are already afoot. How accurate? Man, they've gotten so accurate. My friend Michael Miller makes footwear, digital twins of shoes, and when you look at them, it's like the suede, the leather it looks just so damn impressive. Check him out, Michael Miller. If you look him up, or look at my contacts list on LinkedIn. Everybody here, feel free to friend me on LinkedIn. You can see my contacts list. But if you look up digital twin and Michael Miller, you will definitely be able to see some of his stuff. So I think there are some areas that are tricky, like some of the materials that undulate, my shirt that has wrinkles, and then I'm moving my body, and there's a lot of stochastic behavior that is hard to simulate in digital twin. Fluid dynamics is tricky. Man, it's like making a model of reality and incorporating all of those aspects of reality, and then executing that in the digital twin. It's asking a lot, but we are getting there. We are racing towards that.
Yeah, Microsoft Flight Simulator is a good example of that on the, on a commercial level. And the biggest thing, I can't wait until they really get fluid dynamics down. It's kind of one of the weaknesses, and waterfalls just don't come off currently.
I'm with you. Have you seen Unreal Engine 5's fluid dynamics?
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yes.
I didn't think we'd be there now. Like, man, to look at that. And I saw this game. It was sort of morbid, with a person running through a building in a combat scenario, very realistically shooting somebody. But it looked like did I say I saw a movie? I saw a movie of a game. I'm confusing myself because it was so realistic. It seemed like a movie. was a tech demo about 6 months ago. Did anybody in this call see that? Where they're moving through a warehouse with,
Yes,
build
I
out-
know exactly.
you know
which
the one I'm talking about, Rick? It
Yes,
was
yes.
very impressive.
Yeah.
So we are getting there, people. Jim, you had your hand up first, and we'll get to, I don't know if it's Yitin or Jitin. Jim, you're up first.
Yeah, I've worked on ITAR sensitive projects as well, but you seem to be pretty much up on the state of the art of manufacturing. And I was just wondering, what productivity increase do you think you could achieve in manufacturing facilities in the US if they were to just make use of all the things that are available right now? And how does the US compare with other countries in that regard?
Great question.
Gosh, great question. Germany and there's some Western European countries that are crushing it. And my friend, there's a company called Twinzo. They're out of Bratislava, Slovakia, and there are smart people everywhere. And we are seeing the democratization of technology with, I guess, with Web 2. I'm like going back to that whole Web 2, Web 3 thing, but there are smart people everywhere, and we're able to collaborate, and we're able to share ideas and build solutions. And so regionally, are they out of the US? Who's doing what? Gosh, there's this brilliant people everywhere, as I keep saying. I think with the kinds of technologies and the limitations that we have currently in comparison to where we were just at a few years ago, I'm not able to get into details with what I do, but let me try to create a hypothetical here for one of my apps. Okay, like let's say you're building a car engine and there's wiring that needs to be wrapped around this car engine. I think in other facilities outside aerospace, they call that a harness. I don't know if that's just an aerospace term, and I'm new to aerospace, but I know it's an aerospace term. So anyway, let's say you're putting this harness on a device, and in the past, like 2 years ago, you had to look at a monitor off to the side. And somebody would be on a ladder wrapping this harness, this electric cabling around a piece of equipment. Then they had their friend over at the mouse. They'd say, move me over to A6 bloody block connector that was in their PLM, their product lifecycle management, which is kind of like a content management system for CAD. You'll see that heavy manufacturing companies that do heavy manufacturing like Blue. Anyway, they'll be instructing their person who's mousing around on a monitor to show them this one part, and they're like, oh, okay. And they go and they adjust it, and then show me the next thing, and they move their mouse and they're over there, and due to electrostatic protocols, they can't actually be moving the mouse where they're at. And even if they were, that'd be weird because they need to be turning wrenches and doing things. So it took 2 people to do this one thing where you're wiring up this thing. Now you could have multiple people with an AR headset, all with the information with physical to virtual alignment of all that harness right in front of them.
Yeah.
There you go, Jim. It's like now you could have 3 people wiring this thing up, and each one of those 3 were a job of 2 people. So you're able to have a 6x force multiplier. It's not an over exaggeration. So that's where we're at now. And these are some of the things that are enabled with physically a good headset, for instance, like the HoloLens 2 or like the Magic Leap. So headsets of that Magic Leap 2, headsets of that caliber. Again, I can't say exactly what we're using at Blue, but I think you're all familiar with the capabilities of those headsets. They could execute that amount of a production increase with the scenario I just depicted.
Yeah, and then you throw in AI for each one of the 3, so now you got a factor of 12.
Perhaps, Jim, you had a follow-up question?
Well, also, for example, there's a lot of incentive and they've got the funding to try to replicate a lot of Taiwan Semiconductors manufacturing capabilities in the US. And one of the problems they have is they don't even have the people right now to construct the manufacturing facility. So, so they're trying to come up to speed on a number of different fronts. And
And they might be attacked by China.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, I don't need to
Oh.
get into geopolitics right now. It's hard to pat. That was low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Thank
It
you.
is interesting. Is it Yitin or Jitin?
Jiten?
Hey, yeah, it's Jitin.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
hi.
hey, Jitin, pleased to meet you.
So first, thanks for the shout out to AWS TwinMaker. I actually work at AWS, so in a service called SimSpace Weaver. It's like a large scale spatial simulation service that we
Oh, yeah.
released recently. So my question is like, can you talk about like what kind of stack that you used at Blue or no?
I can't. I wish I could. I could describe it, but I think I already described
Anything?
it a bunch.
Yeah. So, and also like another question I had was like, so we just discussed like the use cases that AR can be applied to in manufacturing. But is there like any use case that you can think of where we can do something now that wasn't even possible before, like instead of like, having a 5x, 10x improvement?
Well, there was that harness routing example, which is physical to virtual alignment and referencing stuff from a PLM that would now all be on your headset, which is huge. There's a bazillion solutions there, leveraging that kind of paradigm that I just described. We can also stream high poly models using a headset like the HoloLens 2 or a headset like the Magic Leap 2. They have native compute issues, so you can now stream stuff to them in certain cases and have incredibly high poly renderings that are sort of physically to virtually aligned with some tricks. And there's pipelines out there that can actually do the physical to virtual alignment. Unfortunately, for the most part, due to GCC high and our security, the area that we need to operate in, we're not able to leverage those. But I have seen some stuff, and there's some stuff over the horizon. Check out Grid Raster, Sphere, which was formerly known as Hollow One. Sven, I forget his last name, great guy, it's his company. Our Visio, Jonathan Reeves and Alex Berlin, what they're up to. And they have stuff specifically for the Magic Leap 2. Scope AR and their work instructions. Yeah. A lot of those are force are new, and they are that kind of force multiplier that you were gesturing towards.
Yeah, and also the remote assistance, I guess that's also something new.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would like to see remote assist take a more collaborative group approach. Most remote assists or RA solutions are one person with a headset, then a bunch of people on a call on their desktops, which is great. There's a lot of utility there, but I'd like to see more AR collaboration, spatial, that then moved over to kind of be a metaverse. I know that word has fallen on poor favor, and that's the first time we said metaverse on this call. So bravo to us. I don't know. I feel like saying bravo to us. I'm definitely opinionated.
It's in your record. Yeah.
It's in the record. Spatial originally was aimed at doing AR collaboration across platforms. So HoloLens 1, HoloLens 2, Magic Leap 1, and then Magic Leap 2, and then even VR. So I remember being in my living room in my old apartment with Peter, my coworker at REI, and then people at Spatial at their New York headquarters, my buddy Ali, who led innovation at T-Mobile, and all of us, but a couple of people were on VR headsets, a couple of us were on different AR headsets, and even a mobile app, you could do 6DoF by articulating the mobile device, the rectangle that you were holding. And then they moved to being more metaversey, as I was saying, but they were starting to crush it on spatial collaboration AR. I don't know who has picked that baton up.
Yeah.
But I like to
Yeah.
see that incorporated to remote assist.
Yeah,
Rick, you have another question? Go for it.
Well, no, I was just gonna tag one on for Jitten there. Talking about force multipliers in digital twins. Of course, when you have AI training, and then they actually use the programming that they get from the AI in the actual physical object, that is such a force multiplier. You know.
You mean letting it spin cycles and just having that?
In other words, having a totally, like in manufacturing lines, like in car production lines and things like that, having a digital twin of the robot and training the digital twin with thousands of robots, and then putting that, when they finally get it so that it works, then putting that code into the actual physical object.
Totally
sim
with you.
sim to real, right? Simulation to real transfer.
I urge you guys to check out worlds.io and check out what they're doing. They are creating digital twins that leverage CCTV cameras inside manufacturing facilities, and they're able to do real-time analysis and then apply AI to algorithmically assessing weaknesses in manufacturing process. Long story short, my buddy Garrett is a product manager over there. I urge everybody to check out worlds.io. What they were up to is just mind-blowingly awesome. And it's along the lines of what you were talking about, Rick, a little bit.
I did miss a phrase, Jitin. If you could restate, you had a term for what Rick and Alex were talking about. I use terms like recursive iteration. I just feel like there's going to be a kind of rapid accelerationism around precisely this ability to automate the automation process. I think about auto GPT as well. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. You mentioned Infinity earlier, Rick, but Jitin, what was the term or reference you made?
Yeah, sim to real.
Sim to real. That's
Yeah,
a service at AWS.
It's no. Oh, sorry. Oh, you mean like what are you asking about the service that I work at, or like the sim to real, the simulation to real one?
To make sure I got that and everybody understood. Yeah, would that be searchable as SIM, the number 2? Or how do you search it?
So no, so the service that I work on is like AWS Sim Space Weaver. It's a large scale spatial simulation service. Basically, our customers are they have city scale simulations. Now it's large simulation, so you can't run it on a single machine. So you need to run them spatially in the cloud with like areas distributed across different machines and coordination. So it's recently, like I think we released last year this service.
Right.
Like think of it as like a Fortnite. You know, the game Fortnite, how you played in cloud. But that technology, but you apply it for like you want to simulate crowd patterns like during an event or some disaster management, stuff like that.
Okay.
So is AWS already into and looking at strongly quantum computers and to, distribute that workload more effectively?
I don't know about the quantum efforts. This
I
is
don't
like
either. Amazon's been quiet on their quantum efforts. They have to have somebody. That's a great prompt.
I think there is something in the public news. That's all I know.
So
I don't know, and I'm not aware of anything internally.
Who can't see the chat? Jitin posted it here. It's AWS SimSpace, one word, SPACE Weaver, SimSpace
Yes.
Weaver. Thank you for that.
And I can't wait to SimSpace Weaver is live in AWS GovCloud.
Yeah, we recently enabled GovCloud because a bunch of customers are governments, like municipal corporations and stuff, because they want to.
SimSpace Weaver is now available in AWS Gov?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, very
Like,
cool.
Yeah.
Are you do you work with David Randall and Lauren Marble?
I'm not sure who that.
Okay. A lot of people over there. Amazing
But
stuff.
another startup that you can check out is GeoPipe. Basically, they are kind of providing. So for a bunch of these customers, the biggest problem is how do they get the city scale 3D model, right? Because it's not easy. Like recently, we know, like Unreal Engine, they released the New York City's model that you can use, but similar models you need to get for your whole city. It's so this startup, they are tackling that problem to just provide city scale 3D models, and we kind of work with them.
Has everyone gotten to ask their questions? Okay, great, because I have another one for you, Alex. How are we doing on time, Dominique?
Oh, the time is pretty good. It's just 1 hour past. And I do have a question, is that if you see Vision Pro, right, it's pretty much 2D based. And also before you mentioned that Magic Leap and the HoloLens 2, you haven't mentioned MetaQuest and also Vision Pro. What do you think of those two devices will play some contribution for manufacturer, and why you pick Magic Leap and also HoloLens instead of those, and what do you think about Vision Pro? Yeah.
Yeah, I do have to answer that. So unfortunately, on the shop floor, where there's a lot of very dangerous pieces of equipment, a pass-through AR solution is dangerous. Because if the HoloLens deactivates, if it is no longer displaying an image, the refractive waveguide sends the image onto the combiner. It's stereoscopically displayed in 3D.
Right.
If that fails, you could still see through the piece of plastic. If something happens and you're using a laser clatter with a pass-through AR solution, and there's some kind of electromagnetic spike that fries the circuitry, or something. I'm just making that up. I don't know. But
Right.
if something happened that damaged the piece of equipment, it'd be dark, and all of a sudden you're doing something very dangerous. And companies like Blue have groups like what we have at Blue called EHS, Environmental Health and Safety, and that's a hard stop. So you need to be able to see through the headset.
Or if you just lose power.
Or if the battery runs out, right? Forget about the EM spike in that wild scenario I depicted. If your battery runs out, right?
Yeah, or the little cable that hooks up to it comes off by
Yeah,
accident.
right,
Something
whatever.
like that.
Well, that's a hard stop too, Jim. The little cable. So I
Well,
feel
the
like
little cable goes to the battery. So
well, I feel like I'm
built-in
about to.
battery.
I feel like I'm about to paint myself in a corner by process of elimination, and I'll say that devices that have tethers on the shop floor are no-go too, because that tether could get caught on something.
Yeah.
So that in itself, let alone get pulled out to turn the power off, we
Right.
can't even have the tether. So
Yeah.
because that is a dangerous thing that could get caught on something, and we're very I
Safe.
suppose uptight about that for good reason. Our company motto is gradatum ferociter, which is step by step ferociously. And we are the employees' health and safety is paramount to everything we do at Blue. So we don't take any chances or risks. And a device like the Magic Leap 2, and again, I feel like I'm setting myself up for the process of elimination, and you could backwards engineer the kinds of devices that Dem would need to be really careful about those sorts of things, saying what we use and what we don't use. But I will say a device like the Magic Leap 2, you don't have peripheral vision. So you need to be able to see around you. You can't have the tether. So a lot of those things are very important factors. So Dom, when you asked the question about the Quest and Apple Vision for what I do with AR for M on the shop floor, it's a no-go. However, I mentioned earlier on the call that we do virtual reality design reviews, and those are great those are great headsets. I'm excited to see what I don't know if the Apple Vision Pro is a great headset specs wise. I definitely something I'm interested in. A little bit of a disappointment that the room scale VR seems to be limiting, but I bet you that's just the current hardware version. I bet you will see room scale VR come soon. And in fact, they said there wouldn't be controllers for it. I'm already seeing people using the Reality OS wiring up Bluetooth controllers to operate that Reality OS applications through their Apple Vision Pro SDK. So
Yeah, supposedly they'll support the Sony and Microsoft controllers.
Yeah, they already do. Supposedly.
yeah, we all expected that to happen. They sort of did a soft, tacit nod to it by saying you could play the Apple Arcade games when you look at the TV screen inside your Apple Vision Pro session, which is different than having a Reality OS game using the controllers. But right away, we're starting to see people wire up the controllers to stuff being authored in Reality OS.
Yeah,
So I'm
plus,
totally open to it. I'm sorry, Jim,
plus
go
you
ahead.
can supposedly convert from Unity games, developed outside of the Apple ecosystem. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to have to provide access to controllers.
I'm with you, man. I was a little bit of a letdown. And I know Steve Jobs didn't want a stylus ever to be on a mobile device. And then
Yeah.
we all have, a lot of us have iPads with a little Apple Pencil. So anyway.
It's coming out more and more that Apple, for given industrial reasons and commercial reasons, having to put a product out there that will be potentially in the hands of billions of end users that occupy a very wide spectrum of user types, right? From the absolute tech novice to potential industrial engineers, and in spaces such as your own. So, Alex, knowing that and knowing that Apple makes it very hard to sort of hack and jerry rig their technology, and that there'll be workarounds. I mean, do you think that Apple could be bringing something in that, you were all working with HoloLens back in the day, you were all working potentially with other headsets, Vario comes to mind, obviously Magic Leap. Is there room for an XR lab experimentation level, identification of how far you can push this technology? Because you're at the intersection of so much, Alex. It's like, I hope this is seen internally there.
So you hope that this is seen internally at Blue, so we could build an XR lab that really pushes boundaries.
Yeah, and
Cool
that
idea.
your level of intersection of so many different domains of immersive technology, right? Because it's obviously not one thing. It's currently like multiple sectors or spaces that are kind of finding a way to coalesce and work together. That's what we might take for granted as Web3 in the coming decade. But for now, there's still a lot of siloing and there's still a lot of interoperability. But what that new thing that's born is as a definitive UX kind of dynamic. Some people call it UX XR. So just in an industrial setting such as your own, is there room to play and experiment with these devices and push them to their
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's hard for me to pick what to do because there's so much to do at Blue. In fact, I was warned or cautioned, I suppose, that it'd be hard to prioritize because there's so much just screaming out for a spatial solution at Blue that I wish I had more bandwidth to do the kind of experimentation that you just described. I think we're starting to see those things play out in front of us. Like for instance, the HoloLens was hands-free. Magic Leap had that little controller thing, but then went to controllerless, but hovers back and forth. And then Vision Pro is also hands-free and controllerless, although we just had that little diatribe on controllers and gaming. And that aside, the leap that we saw between HoloLens and Apple Vision Pro went from the use your hand, pinch, and hand ray pointing out to gaze interactions with Vision Pro. And I think that is a direction to go. I struggle sometimes. It took me a little while to get used to the hand gestures of the HoloLens too. And I think the gaze interactions of the Apple Vision Pro, that seems like the way to go. So it seemed like in the way you posed that question was maybe twofold. Could I be granted latitude to start doing experimentations in the overlap and the directions that things will be going, and which made me think about the direction that things are going in general and the way that we are seeing that evolution that I just described. I would love to set up a lab and get funding to just explore these things in sort of like a research institute type setting. That would be fun.
Yeah, Alex,
Fantasy.
actually, I'm writing a book and it's related to experience design for spatial computing. I'm trying not to say XR. It feels like XR, people will directly related to that big headset, but for Apple, when Apple's announced Vision Pro, Apple didn't say anything XR. They say spatial computing. I feel like spatial computing, it feels more like a bigger, broader than XR. AR,
I did
VR.
say augmented reality a bunch, actually.
Yeah,
And mixed reality a
Which is
few
basically
times.
XR.
They did not say metaverse, though.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
at all.
Metaverse is more.
That word has really fallen in poor favor. And you know what? Like, there was a Simpsons episode where I think the guy who owned the android's dungeon, that character, I forget his name. Anybody who's a Simpsons fan, what was that guy's name?
I haven't.
Rick?
I don't know.
He was like, Jar Jar, I'm the only one who loves you, in reference to Jar Jar Binks being his ignominious demise of Jar Jar. I feel like metaverse has fallen in such poor favor, but you know, we are moving towards that thing, this spatial web. We're getting there. It was just this hype cycle and all this idiotic nonsense that was associated with it. Some of which my friends
Like
made.
blockchain and all these blockchain communities.
There's a Web3 component and there's utility in crypto and there is some utility in NFT too. But there's this huge hype cycle. When Kim Kardashian is telling you about this thing, you got to think maybe twice about it. No offense, Kim Kardashian. I feel a little terrible right now. It was unfair, but you guys know what I mean. But there is still there's still this thing that we're all moving towards. I don't know what else to describe it. The spatial web. That was the spirit of the terminology.
Yeah.
I mean, this space is moving so fast. The book from a few years back of the title, The Spatial Web, that Dan Mapes and Gabriel Nones put out, is already a bit behind, but it was still a great read. It was the #1 book. They're from this LA scene, and Rick, I know you know those guys.
Yeah.
And
I've been at Dan Mapes' place on a couple of occasions. Not in a real long time, but
shout them out. They're the founders of Verses, VERSES.io. Lots of interesting. They got IEEE to not just accept but celebrate a standard. They figured, look, it's going to come down to network architecture that's going to pivot the space. The internet came together because of HTTP, because web browsers started to be able to interoperate with all that prior internet data. So the World Wide Web was born. And so they're asking the question, what would it take for the spatial web to be born? So they developed HSTP as a kind of successor to HTTP, or just the next step in that evolution, which stands for hyperspace transaction. And IEEE, the year it was accepted, moved it to the top of the big things of that year. They gave it some award as like the most important new standard. So
and Dan Mapes was involved in that?
Oh yes.
So he's still very active then, I take it.
Right. And then now they're having to inhale the giant wave of what's happening. And so, you know, I see Alex here at the absolute intersection of so many of these.
So kind, Farson. You're
He is.
So flattered.
This guy is hooked up.
You're in deep industry where all this stuff is really performance and stress tested and vetted on a level, right? I mean, you possibly iterate in one day that what an entire XR startup has to spend 2 years doing.
I will say I'm very lucky to be at Blue to be able to do that and to be able to just go at it and build the stuff.
Right.
For us to build the XR SE team, for us to build under my manager, Ivan Blaustein's leadership, for us to build what we build and the team that he was able to assemble. I am incredibly fortunate. You know, when you were talking about standards a second ago, and you mentioned Omniverse earlier, Rick, I have to say they're using USDZ, which came from, I want to say, Pixar. And I mean, we're starting to see these standards
Integrate.
come along. So USDZ.
That's when the metaverse will actually start to take off. Is when
Right.
these very robust standards start to interoperate. It's going to get really interesting.
Maybe they'll resurrect Vermal.
I doubt that. I don't know.
I doubt that too. Jim, your hand's up. Do you have another question?
Yeah, you mentioned the HoloLens quite a bit. It hasn't that been discontinued, and what is the impact of that?
Yeah.
Oof. Oof.
Well, they
What a
actually
touchy,
got
what a
some
touchy
of them.
subject for me, because I am a little bit of a HoloLens fanboy. Okay. Let me just say this has nothing to do with Blue at all, with my work at Blue Origin. So you guys are putting me in a funny spot. Don't count Microsoft out.
No.
Don't count them out. And that's all I'm gonna say. Damn it.
Didn't they
Thank you,
get
Mr.
some
Solid.
revival in their military headset just recently? They did something where
That keeps going. I don't
Yeah, yeah.
know what's going, like, yeah, Rick, I hear you. And sorry, I feel like I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry, did somebody else have something to say?
Sorry, I was just saying my understanding, Rick, is that contract got canceled too. And I think what
No.
I'm
no, it just got revived.
Yeah.
It just got revived.
So I have a theory here. Is it maybe an overarching business theory? There's so much money invested. People are like, we need to get our money. We need, like, somebody keeps saying, oh, we just need to do a few more things. And yeah, we'll deliver this thing that we've been promising you. Gosh, if I was a soldier, if I was a combat soldier using that kind of weaponry and my life was on the line, I wouldn't want one of those things strapped to my head. If I was in a support
Right.
unit conducting like operations,
There
it
you
could
go.
be a way to enhance my situational awareness of things that could only be provided in via spatial computing. Which also makes me think of solutions like they do the boxes, they're from Brooklyn. They make the light window. What is it called? I know you guys know this one. Lightfield Labs.
Yeah,
Carson, what are they called?
there's like an iPad, or what do they call it? It's some kind of 3D tablet. Is that what you're talking about? Where they
There's that one too. And then there's also Gavin Smith's company from Australia, Voxtron Photonics. There's a lot of neat ways to visualize things in 3D. I'm all about that. I think it's called IVAS, the program for the HoloLens implementation for the military. If I was an infantry combat soldier or special forces or whatever, dealing with a threat and you're in a live fire situation, I don't know if I'd want a HoloLens strapped
Yeah,
to
I
my
can't
head
imagine
right
having one of those
Right.
on your head in the battlefield.
But we have
But-
to get there. We have to get there somehow.
Sorry, I can answer your questions. I was struggling to unmute. So Looking Glass.
Looking Glass. Thank you. Thank you.
Looking
Looking Glass.
And then John Carafin of Lightfield Labs, I believe. are
Right. Right.
California. And
And John came from the Lightfield camera company. What were they called? The camera? I feel like there's 20 questions all of a sudden.
No, I remember everybody talks about
Yeah.
that. Right.
Yeah, what John Carafin is up to at Lightfield Labs, I'm very excited. Like real holograms, people, like Princess Leia coming out of R2-D2 telling Obi-Wan that she's his only hope, like a real hologram. I think we are gonna get there. 'Cause
So it
technically-
sounds like maybe with the HoloLens, it has just too many tentacles out there for it really to be discontinued in the end. Or do you think that's perhaps the case?
there's that business perspective that there's so much. That's the tentacles in that I think that was you could have read into my description of I think it's called the IVAS program, which is the HoloLens for military. And there's so much inroads carved and so many different units depending on it. that's sort of like military contracts in general. They go to local companies all over America. So there's a mom and pop shop in West Virginia that if the JSF 35 Joint Strike Fighter 35 program is canceled, somebody making a part for a landing gear is going to talk to their congressperson. And there's in a small town in West Virginia, when you have 200 of those, and then all the Congress people were saying, hey, I'm getting all these calls from, that's the infrastructure and tentacle aspect that I'm sort of alluding to. I don't know if I did a good job explaining that, but I think there is a component to that into IVAS for it not being discontinued. And as scary as I keep saying for somebody to have, I wouldn't want one of those on my head, but I could think in a support situational awareness type of role, having a HoloLens or something like from Voxtron Photonics or Looking Glass, a device where you could see things in a really neat dynamic way. I think there's tons of utility for that. Back to the HoloLens going away, and where I said don't count Microsoft out, don't count them out.
Yeah, I've found this moving on. Army and Microsoft agree on path ahead for IVS with latest 1.2 variant, but I can't see what. Oh, that was January 5th, 2023. But there was an early, even
Just this week there was another announcement.
Yeah, just this week.
A subject line for you to look.
I can't find it.
Yeah, I don't know offhand either, but I saw the announcement this week. It came across my my radar.
Well, another thing is the military is supposed to dual source its technology so that if one of your sources goes belly up or evaporates, you're not in the lurch. So I don't know how that would apply to all this, but that, that's a big issue with Taiwan Semiconductor, for example. They're the only source of a lot of the chips that are out.
They are. I'd love to see something change about that.
Yeah, and that would really just, the whole world would go gaga if all of a sudden China just did a full-out attack on Taiwan. A lot of people are depending on that technology. A lot of manufacturers, so they go real crazy real quick.
Everything from NVIDIA, everything from Apple goes through them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But speaking of,
Go ahead.
speaking of HoloLens, but I also saw some news like some months back, like they laid off the teams working on it, and they might be like reducing their efforts in HoloLens investment. They also.
I'm sorry, what are you saying about Teams? Do you mean the app or Teams?
No, the HoloLens project. The HoloLens project from Microsoft. So the hardware department, basically.
There was a huge round of layoffs for a lot of people working on MRTK, mixed reality toolkit, as well as a number of other groups associated with HoloLens development, Roguelike Go, and Mesh was rolled into Teams, the app Teams. But
I think they also, I think, declared some collaboration with Meta when Meta released the Quest Pro, so it could be
there
a strategy.
was collaboration. There were.
Yeah, so it could be like a strategy, like the Microsoft steps back from hardware, Meta can, and they can
I've heard these rumors too, Jitin. I wish I could say more about what I know, and sorry to be like teasing you guys. That's not cool of me. But
I do have to interrupt to say goodbye. I apologize. I know this call is going to keep going, and I can't wait to listen to the recording, especially what I missed. This has been an incredibly pleasant surprise. My allotted time here is coming up. I have to walk down a hallway and do some IRL meeting.
Just one quick thing for you, Farsam, before you leave. You probably already know about this, I'm sure. But you know that Nassim Harriman on August the 5th is going to have a big live conversation in Resident Science Foundation, where he's going to roll out his newest peer-reviewed paper. So that might be of interest to you. You probably already know about it, but I just wanted to.
I didn't. Thank you. Happy to take that up with you in a different venue. I wrote you directly, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you all. Dominique, thank you for hosting this. Alex, I could talk to you for hours, Alex. You are just beyond.
Oh, you're so. I love our talks, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, and Barrett, I'd like to get to know you further. Jim, definitely sponging up here, but what you're putting down. And anyone else here that's not on camera, excited to learn more about your XR Academy community, Dominique. But thanks for letting me participate, and I'm super stoked for everything you guys are doing. Let me know how I can support.
Yeah.
Have a great
sounds
day,
good.
Farson. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Farson.
thank
So
you.
nice.
It was nice talking to you.
Still going in 3 hours.
Bye
Bye-bye, guys.
bye.
Bye.
And Jim, what area are you in?
I'm in Ventura. I used to live on the west side. So I'm familiar with all those places, but
So Ventura, you mean Ventura near Oxnard?
yeah, I'm in that area. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I think we have about a half hour left. Maybe we wrap it up with Q. I feel like this has been a Q&A. What should we do, Dom? You are the pro. You are podcast master. I want to say mistress. That's kind of creepy, but
She may have stepped away for a
Yeah,
second.
she may have stepped away for a minute.
Yeah.
But, you know, I would
right
go,
back,
there's
gentlemen.
more stuff that you'd like to discuss. You know, go ahead.
gosh, I need you guys to like stimulate. There's so many I could just ramble away here. I want
Go ahead and ramble.
So I'm an athlete. I'm a passionate cyclist. I do long distance endurance cycling on a cyclocross setup. So I ride road and gravel.
What would you be willing to wear while you were doing your cycling?
Right. So I fantasize about wearing, because I'm always, I go off grid and I'm looking at, I download Google Maps. I do the Google Maps downloads.
Right.
And then I'm able to look at the Forest Service roads that I'm riding on. And I would love to plot routes and have arrows tell me where to go, have my heart rate, have a race against myself,
Right.
on segments and see where that is. Person's in front of me, but it's me, you know, and it doesn't need to be super fancy 3D rendered volumetric capture me. It could just be a 2D sprite or an arrow showing me where that person is.
So there are
I'm
programs.
sorry, Alan, wait a minute, 1 second.
Go
Can
ahead.
you start that again? Is this some kind of exercise thing you're talking
Yeah,
about?
we're drifting in that direction. So
Boy, I need.
Jim
to
gave me
get
carte
that
blanche
on.
to ramble. So I went right towards fitness, nerdy stuff. And I'm sort of a fitness nerd. And
So is this something that exists now?
no, I was just about to say, there's a couple different headsets out there. Scott, they make snowboard goggles. They do stuff with resorts, telling you where to go for routes. And I think there's even more dynamic info, like how long the lift lines are at some of the lifts,
Oh.
and ways you can message inside of the snowboard goggle or ski goggle. I've seen
Does
some
that already
stuff for.
exist?
What's that, Jitin?
Does that already exist? I was about
Yes,
to
it
say,
does.
like,
So when I was at
for skiing,
REI,
it
that was
could be really
a
good.
product that came out about 5 years ago, or even longer, and is very basic, almost along the lines of the basic AR headset that North came out with, Thalmic Labs, that was then called North and then acquired by Google. And then Google scrapped their see-through AR project just a month or so ago.
I know I'm a runner, and I know there are phone apps. I've got an Apple Watch, and like it will show me the map of where I'm at on the watch.
Right.
But if you're riding a bike, that's sort of a
It's
more
dangerous.
intense situation, and you
I have like a
probably don't
split
wanna-
second. I just have a split second to look at my watch because I'm like, even though I'm on gravel and I'm on rocks and I'm bouncing around and shit's vibrating, I have like just a second to glance at my watch and get my heart rate. And I don't use any navigation on my watch, but I would love to have it all on my headset. I'd love to have, Rick, I'll get to you in a second. I'm just going to ramble for a minute here. I'd love to have the Ghost Rider in front of me. I'd love to have directions. I'd love to have points of interest and images that other people have captured. And, oh, right behind this tree is an amazing lookout. And it looks like this. Go look at it, but also not be too distracting. I'd like to also be recording, like the Swiss, see what I see what I saw, that whole acronym of remote assist. I'd like the headset to also have that, and people be able to jump in real time and be able to watch what I'm doing. And I'd like to be able to see that ghost of me. So all that stuff. I when I'm out there riding, I'm constantly thinking about that, as well as when I need to eat more and monitoring my blood sugar and
Right.
all of that. Rick,
Yeah.
what do you got?
Yeah, it actually exists. There's this one thing in VR that exists. I'm trying to look at it, but it works with a bike stationary bike that you pedal, and it's multi-user, so other bikers can get in there, and it uses like Google Earth data, so that you're going in running in actual environments. And I'll
Yeah,
have to, maybe it's HoloFit. I don't know. I got to look it up.
I think all that's cool. I think
Yeah.
all that's cool. I have two problems with it. They're kind of personal issues, and I'll share them with you guys since we're all here talking. First off, when I'm at home working out, I don't want a big light thing strapped to my face. I work with big light things strapped to my face all day long. So I don't need to be the immersive VR when I'm working out. I want to have a little bit of zen. In fact,
Good point.
I'm tempted to turn my camera on. I use a rowing machine called Ergata, and it's kind of the Peloton of row machines with a huge monitor. So I hang my shirt over it and leave only the bottom of the monitor that shows my physical, how hard I'm working, my stats.
Yeah.
So I cover all the crap because I don't want bright light. In fact, I dim the lights in my room. I have Zen, get into my little Zen flow. And also, my other problem, I said I had two issues. There's a Zen factor. The other issue that I have with the VR headsets when working out is my lenses fog up.
Yeah.
So
Plus-
there's times when I get home from a ride and I have a standing game with two buddies of mine. We play Population 1. It's on.
I haven't tried that yet. I don't know.
Oh, it is so much fun. It is a
Is
great
it?
game. Yeah.
You'll have to introduce me to it sometime.
Yes, check it out, man. It's free now on the Quest App Store. Population 1, I urge everybody to check out. It's just a blast. So anyway, there's times that I'll be done on my rowing machine, or I race home on my bike, and my body is still really hot because I was working out. When I throw the headset on, it starts fogging up.
Sure. Yeah.
And at REI, we experimented with so that's just me after my workout with still residual body heat. And then at REI, we experimented with a kayaking experience, and I would fog up the lenses. So
I think there's a couple of other issues. One is I do a lot of stereoscopic 3D photography, and I've photographed aerialists before. And I know one of the things you have to be careful with aerialists, for example, they depend very highly on their vestibular sense. And you cannot attach anything to their heads because it throws them off. Just that small amount of weight, like a GoPro or something like that, would throw them all off. And so you have to be very careful about the amount of weight that you're putting on someone's head for a lot of these activities.
for aerials, absolutely. Some other activities has less of an impact. When even skateboarding, when I would throw a helmet on, because some skate parks back in the day when I was a kid made you wear those. And that was such a big deal, just have that light piece of plastic on me. It's like, whoa, it's throwing me off.
Yeah. I think one of the things that people don't talk about too much is the Apple device, very expensive. I think that in many ways it's sort of a foundational device that's designed for further development. I've read that when Apple first conceptualized of this, Tim Cook was thinking about something like this with lightweight glasses, and then they realized they couldn't really do what they wanted to do with something like this, so they went to the headset design. But I think that a lot of developers are very interested in this, and I think that it's going to be sort of a proving ground for things to come. And so
100%.
so I think a lot of development will be done for stuff like this. But Apple just doesn't have that embodiment yet. And it sounds like the technology for the lightweight glasses is moving very rapidly and may very well be upon us right now. It's just that the development needs to be done for that stuff. But it would use a tether to get much capability that you're interested in
But I
right
don't
now.
understand-
And that would be prohibitive.
I got a question on that. I don't
for it.
understand why the necessity of the tether with, what is it, Wi-Fi 6 or 7 now? Getting
6,
as
yeah.
powerful as it is, as long as you can wear a CPU belt, if you will, why
Yeah.
not just put it all on a belt and still stay untethered? That'll come. I don't think the tethers.
Yeah, maybe with 6E we can do that. In fact, I've read that
Yeah.
this is all unannounced stuff, but I've read that in the iPhone 15, there's going to be special considerations made for the headset. And the 15 is supposed to have Wi-Fi 6E. So of course, this is all unannounced. So we don't know. This is all rumor. But
It's inevitable, though.
Yeah,
We will go tetherless. It will be doing
Yeah.
offload compute on something local, like a mobile device, and then from a cloud, right?
yeah.
We know
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, so I think it's all coming, and it may be coming in fairly short order. It's just a question of how fast people can develop, the software to run all this stuff.
Yep.
We're working on it.
Yeah. But I think there will be a lot of interesting applications like that where you're wearing something lightweight that gives you the types of indicators that you've mentioned that you don't have time to look. The thing with me with the watch is the fonts they're like 1-point fonts, and I can't see all that stuff when I'm out running around.
Me too. My vision's going. I'm in my mid 40s and I need reading glasses. My vision is going. It is what it is. Barrett's a young guy and Dominique's a young woman. You guys don't know yet. I can't. Jitin also.
I
looks
think
very
pretty
young.
soon,
Now I'm
pretty
saying
soon.
that Rick and Jim don't look young and like an atomic a-hole.
Well,
all of a
thank
sudden.
you.
I'm the old millennials, so I mean,
Oh,
I wouldn't say I'm
the old
young.
man here for sure.
Dom and Jitin and Barrett are overtly young looking. And I'm digging a hole and I'm gonna stop right now.
I mean, we will get old pretty soon. So I mean, I feel like before I thought I was pretty young when I was like just came to America back 23 years old. Now I just feel like just wake up, and then now I'm much older right now.
Guys, Dominique crushes it.
Mhm.
She is you're amazing. I love your energy. I love your
Just too
you're
much energy.
gutsy.
Yeah.
So much personal integrity and the way you carry yourself and the way you get up and present in front of people and you hang on, you have these visions and I respect the heck out of you.
Dominique is fearless.
She is.
Yeah.
Knew it right away.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm beginning to see that.
for me, actually, today I was going out and having a walk, and I was like walking too far. And I remember it was like at 8:50, 55. And I was like, no, I need to open the Zoom for Jim. This is my energy is like, oh, XR weekly news. It was like a 9 to 10. So, that's kind of like, I feel like, yeah, every time when I wake up, I feel like, wow, people are waiting for me to open the Zoom. And you see Rick, and we have Jacqueline. She hasn't joined today, but she will join next week. And Jim and a lot of people who just like jump in and ready to share all the news. And I feel like before it was just me, I just keep talking to myself. And later on, more and more people join. And Jim was like, wow, this is something that he's looking for. Is just, every week and showing up and start sharing stuff. And Jim, every time it's like now Jim will have like a 10 or 20 tabs open and talk about all the coolest like a technology and like I just learned from him a lot. So I think this is like a community that maybe start with me. And I always said that I don't care who will show up or not. It's kind of, I just feel like I just wanna share something. And the best way to learn is to share what you learn, which is teaching.
Agreed.
So yeah.
You're really
So-
special, Dom. really
Cool. Yeah, thank you so much. I think you are, very special, and you are working on this, industry, and this is cool. And have you met Jeff Bezos? It's cool to just say hi.
Saw him in the distance. I have an interesting story, or sort of interesting. Am I gonna violate? Am I gonna go? I think we're okay with this one. I was at LC-36. It's a repurposed NASA launch site that we now own. And I was down there in February. It's where New Glenn's going to launch from. It's our launch pad. You can look it up online. And I think
Is this in Florida or something like
it
that?
is. It's Cape Canaveral. It's on Space Force Base, Cape Canaveral. I have a Space Force ID, and I have.
Wow, Space Force ID.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
Can
We work
you
closely
go
with-
go to the moon or something? It's a pass to go to different planet. Not yet.
Oh, yeah.
We're going. We didn't officially announce our moon project, and we got funding for it. In fact, we have been saying for a while that we were going with or without that funding. We had
Yeah, you have Jeff Bezos. You don't need funding.
funding doesn't hurt.
Doesn't
Yeah,
hurt.
doesn't hurt.
We often say, in fact, in most of the internal company memos, we're going to the moon this time to stay. It's like a thing we say. Yeah, we're going to the moon this
Wow.
time to stay.
Stay, but where
Gives me chills up my.
where can you leave? Yeah,
So,
hotel. Well, there any hotel there?
Well, we
and-
have announced, so we did announce I think it's the Mark II lander. Need to be really careful on what I. 'cause
Yeah.
the
I don't
wrong
want
thing.
you to bother.
I don't have that scripted. I should have notes in front of me how to speak to the name of that space vehicle, but we did
That's
announce the
fine.
one that we got that Artemis contract for that was announced that I am allowed to talk about, that we're all very excited about. So we are going to the moon on that thing. And we did announce a couple years ago, I'm pretty sure, maybe 18 months ago, Orbital Reef. It's our space station.
Oh wow.
Called Orbital Reef. It's in conjunction with Boeing and Sierra Space and maybe Lockheed as well. I'm not sure. I forget if they're partnering with us on that one. But so anyway, back to my Jeff Bezos story. I saw him in the distance. I was at LC-36 and I was scanning because I was only able to be there for a few days. I built a digital twin of our IF, the integration facility, what we call the IF, and the launch pad. Scan the whole thing. And the transporter rector that's going to bring the New Glenn out up to the launch pad and then erect it. And they said there's going to be a surprise meeting with VVIPs, very, very important people. And the
Wow.
whole area cleared out. They wanted me cleared out too, but I said my time is limited, and for me to meet this deadline, I need to be there. I said okay. And then I saw the cavalcade, the whole entourage of trucks, and him and his people that he was bringing through. So.
Wow. And did you see the girlfriend or
Lauren
wife
was
or-
there actually. It's
Wow.
funny because my mom called me. My mom was in Boca, typical like Jewish mom. I'm about to do a Jewish joke. Like I'm from New Jersey, but all the Jewish people end up in Boca. Like they just teleport down there. If they're not already there, they just appear there. So my mom's like, oh, I saw Jeff Bezos and Lauren because they were in the news that they were in Miami, and Lauren and Jeff were there on site. I didn't see her, but I know that she was there from other people. I want to tell you guys that when I joined Blue a year and a half ago, there were something like just south, like 4,700, just south of 5,000 employees, I believe. Now we have like 11,000. But there
Wow.
are people, yeah, we've like doubled in the past year. There were
Wow.
people that I work with that have been there. Every now and then I'll meet somebody that has been there for like 10, 12 years. And that one guy who's there 17 years. The company actually started in the year 2000.
Wow.
Oh, it's
So
very
the company's
similar to
23 years old. It's
SpaceX.
wild.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's another milestone. I'm going somewhere with this. I'm gonna circle back to in a second, but I feel like I'm gonna roll with milestones. This past Thursday was our first flight day. It's a company holiday. 2 years ago in 2021, on what would have been Thursday, which is the 20th. So 7/20/2021, which I think was an anniversary of the moon landing of,
Oh, wow.
I think that was also July 20th. And Jeff did a hat nod to it with our first flight that him and his brother and Alan Shepard's daughter, I believe she was on that. Another person, a young man from the Netherlands who went. Anyway, we just had our first flight day.
Wow.
But we talked about Jeff, and I want to tell you guys, and I was saying how the company has grown. When the company was much smaller, I think Jeff was around more. I've heard nothing but good things about Jeff Bezos.
Wow.
How nice of a person he is, and how personable. I just want to say that from all the
that's
stories I've
nice.
heard about Jeff, I feel like nowadays we're quick to say things like we're like anti-capitalist. There's this bent that we have, even as excited we are with space technology. People are quick to say things. So I just want to say I've heard nothing but good things about Jeff, and hopefully someday I'll get to meet him and just thank him for building Blue and giving me this opportunity. Never did this guy, this skateboarder that moved to California for skateboarding and then made short films at art school and then did all the other stuff that I talked about at the beginning of my interview here. Never in a million years did I think I'd be involved with human spaceflight. And it's such an honor for me to be a part of it. I get teary. I'm about to cry now. I get teary-eyed
Oh,
when I think about it. It's just something that,
wow.
and I feel like collectively we're all a part of this because I'm a part of the
Yeah.
spatial computing community, and that's with you guys.
Yeah.
And we're all friends now on this call, and it's just such a beautiful, special thing. And what the twists and turns of life. It's all amazing. So thank you, Jeff, for starting Blue, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, I do think that this is, I mean, I can tell you, did I told you that I met Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan?
Oh,
you
really?
met Mark.
Yeah.
Wow. And Priscilla,
Yeah.
his wife. Okay.
Yeah, it's at Palo Alto, Stanford Street, like around the around Stanford, there's a lot of like a restaurant or something. And one time I met like I was in a meetup. It's about Web3 and investment. I joined that, and suddenly there's a person and asked me that and said that, hey, do you want to meet Mark Zuckerberg in person? I was like, are you joking? What you're talking about? I feel it's a joke. And he said that he wanna say hi because he was a Stanford student, and he wanna say hi because Priscilla was his professor. And he just himself, he doesn't wanna go there by himself. He wanna grab somebody. And probably I look like a student, so he asked me and was like, is this
No
a
way.
kind of like, yeah, he
It's
just
so
like,
funny. He kind of used you.
yeah,
for
he
that.
just wanna boost his courage, and so that's why he just came to the meeting, and he saw me, and I was kind of finished a conversation with some other person, and then so he asked me, and I was like, yeah, why not? Maybe it's just some TV show and trying to get people and just make
When
fun
was
of people.
this?
Oh,
When was this?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I told a lot of people, and they just like, wow, but nothing happened. It's like I thought it was a joke, and I was walking on the street with him, and he said, did you see that little man, and there's a woman sit next to it, and the entire table were empty, it's just them. That's them. And I was like, look at that. I was like, whoa, it seems like it. And we kind of keep walking across them because that is the street, like in California during COVID, a lot of people sit outside on the road, and there's a kind of like so we walk, and then they were sitting there talking, and he turned back and say, "Hi, Priscilla." And I was like, and I look at them, it's real, it's them. It's like 1 feet. Yeah.
Did you tell him that you used to work for him?
I was so nervous, and I didn't even enter anything. It's just that guy keep talking to Priscilla, and I look at Priscilla and Mark. I know we are kind of interrupted talk. They were talking something about something, but I feel like Priscilla actually, on the TV news, we saw her, but when I saw the real person, I feel like the energy is very high. You can feel somebody's energy is very high, and I feel two of them energy is very high, and I feel Priscilla is really beautiful. Yeah, I can say that. And after that, I was like, I should say something, but I just went blank. And and later on they say goodbye, and I walk, and I was like, yeah, actually I can I can chime in the conversation, but but anyway, that's the in-person experience.
And he had no
Nothing
idea.
happened.
He had no idea that you used to work for him.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so that's my meeting with Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chen. It's in Palo Alto, in San Francisco.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Thank you, Alex, for joining us today. And I really love the conversation types of meeting, because I feel like, we all jump in and learn a lot from each other. So thank you.
It was exciting for me because you really point to how this is really moving towards reality. It's real out there, because of people like you. Now I'm getting emotional. Because of people like you, you're actually.
Oh, Rick, you're crying.
Oh, I do that all the time. I do that all the time. It's because,
Thank you, Rick. We're doing it. Rick, you're a bro. I can tell you're a total bro.
Yeah,
man.
your heart is there. Yeah.
And
totally.
I know we would just enjoy each other's company in person and nerd out for hours, and we inspire each other. So thank you for that inspiration and everything you do and you've done, man. Thank you.
Good work. You're
Thank you
doing
so
it
much.
in the real world, man. That's great. At a high level. That's good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Dom. Thank you. I feel like we're wrapping up now. We're doing thank you.
We're just wrapping up.
Thank you so much for this. I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah,
This
I
ended up
didn't
being
expect this.
I wasn't not expecting it to be awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't think it would suck or something, but it ended up being beautiful.
Yeah.
We never know what's going to happen during these things.
Isn't that great?
Sometimes we generate patents, all kinds of.
I think a low expectation will make people happy, right? Because if we expect too high, we will feel disappointed. But we just show up and see how everything goes. Sometimes it's good, sometimes is fine, but we just keep the ball rolling. Whether things turn out good or bad, we just keep going. That's how we do it, right? So cool. Thank you so much for everybody. Maybe we can have another Alex talk part 3, right?
Down the road.
Down the road.
We can space them out.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Hope everyone has a great rest of their weekend and enjoy summer. Be good, people.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Barrett, don't be a stranger.
Yes.
Bye.
Follow up.
Nice to meet everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.